This podcast is presented by the Prince George's County Memorial Library System.
Hi, I'm Hawa.
I'm Darlene.
I'm Heather.
I'm Hannah.
And this is our podcast, These Books Made Me. Today we're going to be talking about Forever by Judy Blume. Friendly warning as always, this podcast contains spoilers. If you don't yet know who Ralph is, proceed with caution. Content warning.
We mean that sincerely.
We mean that sincerely.
No
or
joke.
just don't proceed.
If you know who Ralph is, you probably don't want to proceed.
That's fine.
Content warning. This episode contains references to teenage sexuality, suicide, teen pregnancy, abortion, and STDs. This episode is rated T for teen.
So I guess we can jump into the discussion, or a bit of the discussion. What did this book mean to you? And was this everyone's first time reading? If not, how did this reread compare to your memories of reading it when you were younger?
So I think I read this a really, really long time ago when I was a kid, and this was like known as the sexy Judy Blume book. That's all I remembered about it.
I wish y'all could see Heather's face right now.
Questioning her life choices.
This reread compared poorly because this is not a sexy book. It's just got a lot of sex in it. This was awful, y'all.
But what does it mean to you?
It means there's like hours of my life I can't get back. I
Double the hours.
I don't know. It means I'm never going to meet someone named Ralph. Not be able to laugh. I don't know what to say. This one was rough. Did anyone else read this before?
This was my first time reading it, so I mentioned that I was going to read this a couple of months ago after watching the Judy Blume documentary, and I'm very glad that I waited so I could discuss this with this lovely group of people.
Yeah, it's my first time reading it as well. So I really did not expect this because I came into it not knowing anything other than what we learned about in the documentary. Yeah, so we were just like, oh, it's a frequently banned book. And, we try to give every book the space it deserves. But I think I could have done without reading this book.
I did not read this before this week, and I listened to an audiobook, and I had to speed it. I had to speed it up to make it shorter to get through.
Yeah, it made the reading experience worse to hear it. It made it cringier.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I don't know that
because my read of this book last night, I was repeatedly taking sections and reading them out loud to make other people laugh. It's that bad. Oh.
I was supposed to do it like hamster voice speed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So basically, since this is 3 out of the 4 of us, this is our first time reading it. It sounds like it's Heather's fault that we're reading this to begin with because we don't ever pick a book that nobody's read.
So because after we watched the documentary, so I love Judy Blume, y'all. I really do. She's very important to me. And after we watched the documentary and we went to see Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which we loved the book. We loved the movie.
Oh my God.
Judy Blume Forever. It was like, we should do another Judy Blume. I really wanted to do Otherwise Known as Sheila the Great, which I stand by. We should still do that book. But we were like, no, Forever, it's banned. Like, let's do Forever.
You know what? That
Frequently
actually might be
banned
my
books.
fault. I was curious, y'all.
Yeah, we were in our rock band era, and we were just like, we're going to do a banned book. This was not the one.
Are we the cat that got killed by curiosity?
Yes.
Something. Oh, okay.
We're going to be giggling this whole episode.
So I guess fair warning, we are trying to keep this sanitized because this is a work podcast. It's going to be very difficult to do that with this. So this may be a short one, folks. I'm going to dive into a plot summary as best I can. 17-year-old Catherine Danziger meets senior at another school, Michael Wagner, and their relationship quickly blossoms into first love. As their relationship blooms, Catherine eventually decides to have sex with Michael and tell him that she loves him. Senior year is a whirlwind of parties, SATs, ski trips, school plays, and sexual escapades on various area rugs. There's friend drama, a closeted friend who can't go to the acting school of his dreams, premature ejaculation, parent drama, a teen pregnancy, STDs, pelvic exams, a drunken evening after an unsuccessful suicide attempt, and promises to stay together forever. Well, spoilers, folks. Promises don't mean much when you go to tennis camp and meet a college senior named Theo. Kath cheats on Michael, breaks up with him, tries to play it cool when she runs into him at a store, and then moves right on to Theo. That's it, folks. Everything happens and nothing happens. It's a book about teenage sexuality. That's all I got.
I love it.
That sums it up. All right, a little bit about our author. Judy Blume was born Judy Sussman on February 12th, 1938, to parents Esther Rosenfeld and Rudolph Sussman. For the majority of her childhood, she grew up in Elizabeth, New Jersey, with her parents and older brother David. However, when Judy was in third grade, the entire family, except for Rudolph, moved to Miami Beach, Florida, for the sake of David's health. He was recovering from a kidney infection, and the Florida climate was supposed to be beneficial. They lived in Miami Beach for 2 years. Judy was an avid reader and attended an all-girls high school called Baton High before earning a BA from New York University in 1960. She married a lawyer named John Blume the year before she graduated, 1959, which was also the year that her father died. The couple had 2 children together, a daughter, Randy Lee, and a son, Lawrence Andrew. John and Judy would divorce in 1975. Blume began writing stories and books when her children were still very young. Her first published book was a picture book entitled The One in the Middle is the Green Kangaroo in 1969. Her next published work was Iggy's House in 1970. Blume would also publish Are You There, God It's Me, Margaret in 1970, which would become one of her best-known books and make her a well-known voice in fiction for readers at the cusp of young adulthood. The book attracted censure and banning attempts in addition to accolades. Blume continued to pen novels devoted to the experience of growing up with frankness and humor. Her books continued to stir up controversy on account of the topics they covered. Blubber was published in 1974. Blume continued to write books for young readers, but later branched out into adult fiction. She wrote Forever in 1975. Her last published work was a book called In the Unlikely Event in 2015. Blume has remarried twice, and she owns a bookstore with her husband, George Cooper, called Books and Books in Key West, Florida.
All right, folks, guess we're talking about this book now. So obviously sexual health is a huge part of this book. In fact, there's an entire chapter that is just a blow-by-blow of a pelvic exam and a screening visit with a sexual health nurse about STDs. How do we feel like this held up on that front?
I mean, I think even the book acknowledges that it didn't hold up in certain parts, because at least in the audiobook, there was a section at the very end that said, oh, like I included, it's Judy Blume speaking and saying that she had included information that was what was recommended at that time, but that some of that doesn't hold up today. Like she would say, you know, some like different things now.
Yeah, there's a note to the readers in the
like
beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, she mentions in the preface of the physical book that today HIV and AIDS are definitely a part of sexual health, and that you're not just looking to prevent unwanted pregnancy, which was what she focused on in here. Though I think that's a bit of a cop-out too, because Michael had gonorrhea.
Right. So it's just like, were they not thinking that, okay, well, yes, condoms to not get pregnant, but also to not get STDs? Like,
yeah, it's very odd, because that is a whole piece of, it's actually a very important piece of the book, because Catherine makes an offhanded joke about, Michael says, guess what I have? Catherine says, BD. And then he gets really, really upset because he did, in fact, have gonorrhea, but got treated for it. To me, that's odd, because clearly STDs were mentioned in the book. So,
I actually thought that might be a plot point at one point, which is during the Planned Parenthood chapter, because they were going to test her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, well, Michael would never do that to me. And then they were like,
it's like, girl, he already told you that he has a clap.
Do they use condoms every time? Is it implied?
That was unclear too, because they did the first time and then
she gets on the pill.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. They did the first time and he didn't get it in.
Yeah.
And then the second time, to me, it was ambiguous as to whether they used the condom or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then they mention it again the third time.
It almost makes it seem like when she gets on birth control,
they ditch it.
Yeah. That was my I don't know that. Yeah. That's what I felt like was implied. But
yeah, they kind of hand waved a lot of those details.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess she's probably like, oh, I don't want to mention it like every single time, but I guess maybe she thought it wasn't sexy for the, like, I'm still not sure what her motive was with this book.
Good point, because I don't know either. Like, a lot of this reads more like a manual for, like, this is how you make an appointment with Planned Parenthood. Yeah. This is how you get screened for an STD during a pelvic exam. This is what a speculum is. But
like they don't even ask for parent
consent.
Consent, yeah.
But you don't need
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, but she included that for like it felt really instructional or informational.
So you understood that like you didn't need your parents to take
exactly.
you.
Like if you were concerned about something or that you had to tell your parent about it, you don't need their consent.
Yeah. There's these chunks where it like is very manual like almost. Granted, it's all told through weird verbatim dialogue.
Yeah.
You really get the entire dialogue between the nurse and Catherine on the screening for which type of birth control method might be best for her. Mm-hmm. But then I think a lot of the scenes that are the actual sex scenes, and there are a lot, are meant to be sexy. But they're not. Yeah. Do we want to talk about that? I mean, I think that that's a major failing of the book. These are the least sexy sexual encounters I've ever read, and they are deeply weird.
And I think there was I think the first time they have sex was like in front of the fireplace or something like that. So they try to like turn it in the rug.
On rugs.
And then they kind of like circle back.
They are in places with beds repeatedly. And they still use the floor.
This is how you get rug burned.
I mean, yeah. But the thing that's really weird to me, oh my God, I can't even believe these are the details we're talking about today. So the first time that they have intercourse, they are concerned that breaking her hymen will result in so much blood, it will stain something. So they're like, we'll get a towel. But then they decide that it will soak through the towel and stain the bed. So the solution is put the towel down on a rug.
So are you not concerned the rug is going to get stained?
Right. So now you think you're going to bleed all over the rug, but that's fine.
But then she's like, oh, it's such a pretty rug. So then they get 2 towels.
I think they decided that there were so many colors in the living room and no one would notice the stain. Which is real gross.
But this is also, so like to me, this is bad information. So I understand that teens might have a profound lack of understanding about how much blood is involved with breaking a hymen. You don't hemorrhage out. That's not what happens. That never gets corrected.
Yeah.
And then why every sexual encounter after that, do they still do it on the floor?
Why don't we do it in the road?
It doesn't matter where they are. They're doing it on the floor in the den. They're doing it on the floor in the love shack that his sister and her stoner doctor husband set up for them, which is deeply weird, y'all.
Yeah.
Why is this boy's older sister and husband seem to have got an apartment that they lend to them solely for the purpose of them having a place to have sex?
Wait, so did she know that, like, that's what they were going, like, that?
Yeah, that was the whole point.
I wasn't clear on that, on her. I knew she gave him the key. It wasn't clear to me that she was sanctioning them going to have sex at her place.
I
was
think
that
she kind
stated
of had
somewhere?
to know.
She had to. I think that was the whole point, because Otherwise, they could go anywhere. They were fine hanging out at Catherine's house.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was very like, wink, wink. Yeah. Here's the key. Hey, you want a joint? Like they were at the ski trip. Like they were trying so hard to be like the cool sister and brother-in-law. Mm. And it came across as super creepy.
Yeah, like the brandy and the hot chocolate. I don't know if that was a thing back then, considering how old they were. But also, like, were they old enough to drink?
Yeah, because it was 18. It was the 70s.
Oh, that's because I know when they went to the bar, like they mentioned anyway, we don't have to get into that right now.
No, it was 18 back then. Okay, so that was fine.
They were cringe.
It was real cringe and just weird. So all of these scenes. Okay, we have to talk about the Ralph in the room. Like maybe the most cringy part. So Catherine is presented as she's had some boyfriends before. She's dated a little bit, but, you know, she's still a virgin. And it seems like things have not gone too far because she's apparently, you know, the first time that Michael unbuckles his pants is the first time she's encountered male genitalia, which he takes it out of his pants and introduces it. This is Ralph. I don't know what to do with that.
And I'm like, huh? What? I was confused.
Like, that's the least sexy thing anyone has ever done in their entire life. And I feel like that is a universal. Is there any girl on the planet that would be like, that's hot, you named it Ralph? No, you'd be like, you are clearly not ready for this, and put it away.
In all fairness, I'm not sure there's a name that would have made it less weird.
No, the naming part and introducing it is incredibly weird.
Like, you know, he was like, oh, this is going to hit. This is going to be the one. She's going to be like, yeah, that's real sexy.
No.
Yeah, and then it was like an inside joke for them.
Yes,
I don't know.
How many times did Ralph appear in the text, Hawa? You did some research.
I looked it up. It was 23.
I did some informal research and asked a man if he had ever named his bits. And he said, no, people don't do that. So, and then I said, if they did, would they introduce it to somebody during a sexual encounter? He said, no, that's weird.
And I think for that to have been like the first time is just so weird. Like, you know, I guess maybe it wouldn't feel so weird. I mean, it's still pretty weird, but it probably wouldn't feel so weird if like, okay, they'd been together and then like after the fact they joked about it. They came up with a name together, like funny and passing.
Her first encounter with him and his penis is, this is Ralph. Like, so hard to read.
I wish Overdrive wasn't acting up right now so I could read to y'all how cringe some of these.
And you said it was only 23 times, but I swear it appeared in the text more. So many more times.
Oh my God. It felt like so many more. No, it's really bad.
Yeah. And it's its own entity too, because when he writes letters, he says, Ralph misses you.
Never will be able to look at someone named Ralph the same again.
Never. Those poor people.
I was saying before we started recording that it's going to ruin the Beverly Cleary Ralph books for me.
Yeah.
Are you guys trying to do dramatic reading?
You said, do we want to?
Are you guys? Is that what you guys are?
I was looking. I mean, and we talked about the fact that, you know, it seems like, you know, the use of Ralph is obviously so she's not saying penis in the book 23 times, but yeah, I don't know if hearing. I mean, how's this perceived? I want to talk to a teen, somebody who read this as a teen and remembered how they felt, or just give this to a teenager now and get a reaction.
I mean, I can't imagine at any time that somebody felt like this was compelling dialogue. I get what she's going for from an educational perspective, but this plays so much as like an educational video they show you in health class. Michael, do you have something? What for? You know, didn't you finish your period? Last week, but I'm not taking any chances. If you're thinking about VD, I promise I'm fine. I'm thinking about getting pregnant. Every woman has a different cycle.
It's all right, I told him. It's okay, really. No, it's not. It doesn't matter. Maybe not to you. It could have been all that talking. We shouldn't have talked so much. Next time it'll be better, Michael said. I promise, Ralph won't fail me twice.
Ralph, you had one job.
Oh, y'all. This book.
You're going to have to cut everything I say out.
Okay, I think we do need to like backtrack to the beginning because while I said that basically it's just constant sex scenes, the first half of the book is really more like almost sex scenes. So there's a lot of like will they, won't they for the first half of the book because Michael's real eager to get things going. And Catherine is a little bit more concerned, right? It's going to be her first time. She wants it to be special. She wants it to be perfect. She's nervous about it. So there's several interludes between them where they do not have intercourse. There's sexual contact, but they don't go all the way. There is a whole lot of pressure put on Catherine by Michael. The first half of this book, I was like, he's awful.
Yeah.
Like just a terrible person. He will not leave her alone. He's just constantly like, oh, you're making it awful for me. Like, this is so hard. We've got to do it. Like, why aren't you ready? She's not ready yet. And he just won't. He keeps pushing. She'll say no. He keeps pushing. It's bad.
And I was trying to figure out if the library I got this from has this book labeled as a romance, but nothing to me about this book feels romantic. And I don't know if like him constantly mentioning and trying to get like pressure her. I didn't know if that was supposed to be like, oh, maybe like a lesson or something like that. But I don't think so because she, I guess she decides when she wants to, but it doesn't entirely feel like she probably could have had some more time to, ease her way into wanting to do that. Like,
well, and did it not seem to you all that Judy Blume wrote this as this relationship is what in a perfect world to her at the time, a healthy teen relationship would look like, right? The parents are educational and supportive.
They provide a space for them as opposed to them doing it in the car.
They're safe about it. She goes to Planned Parenthood. She gets on birth control. But we have like 100+ pages of him just constantly harassing her to go farther.
He doesn't ask. He keeps assuming, and then he whines when she puts on the brakes. And she's constantly having to put on the brakes. Like, it's exhausting.
And then there's no acknowledgement about that. I feel like
nothing.
That's just like it's treated as though that was fine and reasonable.
Yeah, I agree that that's what I think she was doing because it's also like how he responds. Like he has these moments where he's like trying to be understanding, or he'll follow up as if he understands. But like when you're reading it, you're like, that that's not how it feels in that moment. Does that make sense? Like,
it feels bad.
Yeah.
And like every time he's doing that, she, as a teen girl, the reason pressure like that works is because when he does that, her mind triggers like, oh, I like him so much, he's not going to like me anymore. I like him so much, he's going to break up with me if I don't go farther. So,
or like I'm the one doing something bad by stopping, like, because this is natural.
He calls her
right?
a tease.
Yeah, and then she says like, "Is that what you think of me?" And then he says, "Oh, well, no." But it's like
he hedges it with like, "I would say you're acting like a tease," which is like when people say like you're acting like a bitch. I didn't call you a bitch. Like,
oh my god, he says that
he
too.
calls her. He says he's like, "Why are you acting like such a bitch?"
Yeah.
In the book too, and I was just like, seriously.
I think he says, I know you're not. Like, it's very manipulative. Like, if I didn't know better or something like that.
He said that.
Yeah.
That's why you've been such a bitch all night. Because I guess she was jealous about the girl that he kissed on, like, Elizabeth.
that's
the girl
right.
he kissed on New Year's Eve
Old
or something.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she lets that go too easily as well.
Yeah.
I think she just is like, no,
she ends
like,
up like kind of apologizing for it and whatever.
yeah.
I think I would have rather this book try to take a look at what a healthy teen relationship would look like as opposed to just healthy teen
I think
sexuality.
she thinks it did.
She probably does think it
she
did.
believes this portrayed or at the time, believed she was portraying what an ideal, healthy teen relationship would look like at that age.
I think it just feels like it focused more on like the sexual part of it, as opposed to like, oh, hey, I'm having some really real emotions. Let's talk through this.
Well, that's the thing, is they don't really delve into anyone's emotions in this book. You don't really see a whole lot of emotional impact on stuff until Catherine and Michael are discussing like having to leave for college, and they're kind of panicking about being apart.
Yeah.
And then you get sort of a chapter of her like, I love her with my whole heart. What am I going to do without him? And her parents are trying to put the brakes on it and saying like, y'all, this is too much too soon. That's about it, because the rest of this, she's nervous about having sex. I want to, but I'm not sure. That'll be it. You get one sentence throwaway and on we go to the next encounter. I don't know. I found their first scene, by the way. Sparkling dialogue here. Help me, Michael. I feel so stupid. Don't, wiggling out of his pajama bottoms. Catherine, I'd like you to meet Ralph. Ralph, this is Catherine. She's a very good friend of mine.
You in danger, girl.
Does every penis have a name?
I'm in danger.
Why do we live in this world?
We're in the bad place.
This is the bad place.
Maybe some books need to be banned. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding, y'all. I don't mean that, but damn.
No, I was gonna say we should have put that in our intro, like in the case study for why some books maybe should be banned.
Or maybe this book actually makes you not want to have sex.
It's not the best choice.
That's the point.
It is a tome for the virtues of abstinence, so you don't run into Michael and Ralph.
Shut up, Ralph. Shut up!
You know what? That makes sense, though. It could totally just be like, yeah, it's not really all it's cracked up to be. Because, like,
I mean, and it definitely isn't for her.
Well, I wasn't sure if you were supposed to read that as like all the other times that weren't mentioned after the first time she has, but I don't know.
I don't think Michael's capable, y'all.
I also don't think neither Michael nor Ralph.
Yikes. Oh, man.
But I think I agree with Hawa's saying that if it had explored the healthy relationship aspect, which I know that you were saying that you think that's what she was doing, but I do think...
I don't think she succeeded.
Yeah, like if she had clocked those like remarks and like how unhealthy that was, and maybe even like comparing it to maybe Theo being a little different, like something to state that like Michael was not a great guy. Like
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad
But see, I don't think she, when she wrote this, was even tracking that wasn't okay. Like, I think that's how, I mean, I guess there's some value in reading it that way now, like how internalized misogyny is.
We traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. You hear me? It's coming from inside the house.
It was cool for him to act like that. Like, it's fine. He wanted it. So
That's how boys are.
Yeah, I feel like the extent of this work was like, okay, in terms of like talking about them having a healthy relationship was like, okay, yeah, they're teens, and yeah, they're having sex, but that doesn't make them bad people or like sluts. It just makes them teens who have sex.
okay, but then on that same note,
Who aren't having babies.
I don't think she's even consistent on it doesn't make them sluts. She only gives Michael and Catherine that sort of grace. The character of Sybil. Okay. So for context, there is another girl who goes to school with Michael and is the way that Catherine met Michael is at this girl's party, Sybil. Sybil is depicted as, she's called fat multiple times in the book.
Literally from the beginning.
She is presented as promiscuous. She's judged for being promiscuous. Erica, the best friend of Catherine, says that she analyzes Sybil and says that Sybil sleeps around a lot because it's basically trauma-based. Like, because she's fat and because she's insecure, she wants that attention and validation from boys, so she gives it up easy. Like, that's what Erica says. There's all sorts of problems with all of that. But okay, we're accepting that at the beginning of the book, Judy Blume is saying that the character of Sybil is having sex for wrong reasons. And she's having a lot of unsafe sex for wrong reasons because she's craving attention and validation. Sybil gets pregnant. Sybil does not tell anyone she's pregnant because she wants to keep the baby. Sybil is overweight and wears tents. That's a quote from the book that hide her pregnancy until she's 8 months along. So no one knows she's pregnant. Sybil thinks this is great. Sybil pops out a baby. She says that. That's words from the book, pop right out. And then Sybil at that point says she's not going to give up sleeping around. She's going to continue to be promiscuous, but she's getting an IUD because she just wanted the experience of having one baby. But now it's cool. So she's going to have an IUD so it doesn't happen again. Which, are we supposed to think that that's
a normal
goal?
teen reaction?
Like, now that's cool. You said earlier that the only reason Sybil was sleeping around was because she needed attention, which is a bad reason for having sex. Now you're saying she's getting an IUD, which is what you've kind of promoted as the ideal here. Like, that's safe sex. So it's fine that she's promiscuous. And then it felt like it was sort of turning it into a like, oh no, Sybil wants to do this. She has agency. But you've been slut-shaming her the whole book for doing that exact same thing.
Yeah, it's really weird. And then I think also the whole like, oh, she had the baby and gave the baby up.
It's just a baby.
No big deal.
She's going to lose 50 pounds and go to Smith. That's also a quote from the book.
Yeah.
Wild stuff. I don't even like know how to process that as a like, was that supposed to be funny? Was it supposed to...
I guess the whole thing of the book was like, oh, well, nobody noticed she was getting pregnant. Because she was pregnant because she was already fat. Even though there's a line here where she says, Sybil played his mother and Elizabeth played, I guess from the play, Sybil played his mother and Elizabeth played his girlfriend, but they couldn't compare to Artie. It didn't help that Sybil looked fatter than ever and kept fidgeting with her gray wig. And I'm just like...
No, it's constant fat shaming every time she comes up. And I think a very confusing depiction of Sybil's sexuality.
And also a random plot twist. Like, I guess like her mentioning that she looked even fatter, like looking back was supposed to be like an allude to her being pregnant. But it's just like, she could have done that differently.
On top of that, yet another weird look at sexuality where I'm not really sure how we're supposed to interpret it is the whole thing between Artie and Erica. Artie is clearly coded as gay in the book. Like, he is an actor. He's a fabulous actor. And he and Erica really hit it off, but she can't really get him to engage with her sexually. She keeps trying. Catherine asks Erica, do you think maybe Artie doesn't like girls? Like, maybe he's not attracted to girls. And Erica's like, he's trying to figure that out. But like, don't worry, I'm going to bring him around.
Yeah, like we're working on it. Like, that's not something that you and someone work on together.
And so she spends the whole year kind of dating this guy.
Because she wants to do it before college.
Yes. And she eventually gets tired of doing that. So she breaks up with him and he attempts suicide. What is going on here?
It just felt like she was just dropping things in. Like, she's like, I could pull that in and pull that. Like,
no, in like a 3-page span, you have a breakup, a suicide attempt, and then Erica and Michael get so drunk that they have to like sleep over at Catherine's house. I don't know what she was trying to say with some of this stuff. It's very confusing, and I can't imagine being a teen and reading this book at the time. If I was confused about my sexuality, what are you supposed to take away from that?
Yeah, and I agree that it's even more confusing because I think what Erica lands on is, okay, yeah, I'm not going to just try to have sex with anyone this summer. I agree that it should be something like what you and Michael, like that's what she's telling Catherine. So then it's like, again, what I think is Judy Blume's message is that you shouldn't just have sex.
The ideal is Michael and Catherine's relationship.
Right.
They're so loving.
So then I don't see, even though you can have that interpretation, I don't see Sybil having any sort of agency with the, with the IUD. Like, I don't.
Of course, the timing of that now I'm worried she's going to have gotten a Dalkin shield and ended up with like pelvic inflammatory disease. Something horrible.
There's a
because
lot
of the timing of.
There's a lot.
75 was when this was published.
There's a lot of problems with some of. I mean, a lot of the sexual health information is super dated now.
I mean, IUDs in the 70s, I think, were a lot sketchier than they are now.
I don't know. It's really confusing. And then at the end of the book, you know, so she's kind of spent this whole time building up Michael and Catherine as this, like, look at this ideal teen, healthy sexual relationship. They love each other so much. Catherine ends up cheating on Michael at the drop of a hat at the end of the book. And it seems like Judy Blume is kind of saying, well, that's okay too, because see, they weren't really in love. You think that because you're a teenager, which I feel like is also a really confusing message to send if you've just been telling people the whole book, like, this is so great. See, they're really in love. I don't know.
So
it's very
so
confusing.
which one is it?
Exactly.
And then it just ends. We're not talking about the ending yet. But.
Well, I just did. So keep going.
It just ends so abruptly, almost like they have like
he's called.
Like she basically tells him like I love you, but you know I met this other person and I think I have feelings for them. Some slight happened, and he's like, did you? What did he? I don't remember what he said, but he's like, oh, did you sleep with him or something like that? And then they basically like go off on each other. He drops her back off at the camp. They have this huge blowout, and then nothing. And then they run into each other in an apartment store before they go off to college, and they just kind of like, what are you doing here? Oh, hey. And I'm like, I just think that is so unrealistic.
I mean, I get that teenage relationships, you know, I remember being a teen. I remember my relationships at that age. I remember a lot of this stuff. Everything feels more intense, especially the first time. Everything feels more intense. You do. And when you're a teenager, you think you know everything. So it is love. I do, you know, I am in love with him. We are going to get married. We are going to, like, you feel that on some level. And part of it's because people are telling you, no, you don't feel that. That's not right. You're not actually, you know, and you're contrary.
Yeah.
Right. So I get that. I get that they had this big blow up, but like, she moves on so fast, regardless of, you know, how real your first love is in terms of like lasting power. They break up and she's just like, yeah, it's cool because I'm with Theo now, he called. She never grieves the loss of the relationship in a significant way.
And you would think that she was going to, right? Because when she's starting to have these feelings that are kind of conflicting, she's like, what does it mean or what does it feel like to be in love with someone and be attracted to someone else? And I'm like, okay, dang, maybe we might get kind of deep here. And then it was just kind of like, well, nope, on to the next. I just don't know what we're supposed to take away from this book.
With Blubber 2, we were really confused as to what the message was. But I think Blubber was a better written book, like on every level, even though I felt like the message was muddy. I have no idea what she's trying to say in this book.
Same.
At all. I mean, it really feels like she was like, I'm concerned about teen pregnancy and teenagers don't have a safe place to learn about sex. So I'm going to write a book so I can get that information out there, and then constructed a story around that information rather than working that information into a story that needed to exist. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Hannah, you look pensive.
I was thinking...
Hannah's stuck on Ralph.
I'm having a hard time getting over Ralph, I have to admit. I was thinking about, I think in the afterword to this book, Judy Blume said she wrote this kind of in response to her daughter, I think.
She said that about Blubber too. Stop blaming your daughter.
And I mean, so she had, I don't know, so I'm wondering if like the mom is supposed to be kind of a stand-in for Judy Blume.
I think so too. Like she's hip, she's cool, she's like understands how it is to be a teenager. She's not judging her, she's getting her good information. Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, I'm sure Judy Blume felt like that was the kind of parent she was or wanted to be.
Yeah, I think that's how she sees herself.
And that's good. Like, I do think that's a good message. Like, it's good for parents to be open and honest with their kids about sexuality, for sure. I don't understand this book at all.
I expect so much more of Judy Blume, who
I
writes
have-
marvelous books
had
with
such high
wonderful
hopes for this
characters. And this was like
I think
cardboard.
this is her least developed protagonist.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We know nothing about Catherine.
She played tennis and she got a sister that she's jealous of that can cook and is artistic and
We
is
know more about
interested in
Jamie than
Yeah.
Catherine.
Yeah. Catherine is the older sister who has sex.
That is her identity.
Yeah.
What's that conversation she has with an adult who asks her what she wants to be or do when she
God.
grows up?
Hold on, we got to read that one. 'Cause
Yeah.
it is.
It's there's nothing about
she
that.
doesn't have it with an adult. I don't think the one
Okay.
that she has with.
I thought it's with her.
thought
With
it was
the,
with
she
an
does
adult.
at the party with
uncle,
Sharon and
Michael.
Ike.
But there's nothing that makes
I thought
it more
was
clear
Michael's
how.
uncle.
Sorry, Darlene.
Yeah, it was, but it was at that party with Sharon and Ike.
It just that conversation made it so clear to me how empty she was character development wise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
I
is
think we
so
can find
strange
that scene.
because you've
Yeah.
seen Bloom like write characters that have a lot of like,
You know she can do it.
yeah, they have a lot of personality. They have like, you can get a sense of what they could be, but I don't know that you get a sense of what Catherine could be. Because the only bit of sort of personality that they give her is the records at the beginning. Like, I think Michael came to retrieve some records, and some of them are Catherine's, and that's like how they bond, kind of like over their musical taste. But then that's never carried throughout the rest of the book.
I was like, oh, this is about to get real cute and romantic. Like, no, it did not.
It's never mentioned again.
Yeah. Yeah, and even like them talking about their interests like tennis and skiing, it's very like superficial. It's just like, I want to get I want to become a skiing instructor. And for tennis, it's just like, I play tennis. Like, I don't know that there's any sort of like
So the
enjoyment she
uncle
gets from
at
it.
the party says, "So tell me, what do you want to do with your life? Do? Yes, you've thought about it, haven't you? Sure. So I want to be happy and make other people happy too."
Young lady, what do you want to do with your life?
I want to live in a van down by the river.
Well, you'll have plenty of time to live in a van down by the river when you're living in a van down by the river.
And then he says, "Very nice, but not enough."
Is that like an adult interpretation of like how teens feel to be asked that question?
I guess, but no teens talk like
No,
that.
yeah, they
either.
don't. But I'm just like,
Did she consult with teens?
I don't think so. And I feel like she doesn't remember what it was like to be a teen because
but it's so
Catherine's
weird
just an idiot.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
because we said in Blubber though that she seems to access like the thoughts of is it fifth grader?
Yeah.
She
So,
remembers
really
that.
well.
She
Yeah.
remembers.
Yeah, she taps into that very well.
Yeah.
Very, very well.
Teens are a harder age demographic, I guess. Do we have any information about how they like teens received this book? Do they feel like, oh my God, this was so life changing?
I mean,
She
I think at
understands
the time
me.
it was a controversial book. And so teens liked it because it was the edgy sex book you weren't supposed to read.
There was also less information. So then they were just thinking like, oh, she's telling me the truth.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
They didn't have the internet or anything
Yeah.
to look things up on. So like probably for some kids, this was a really valuable source of information. And I'm sure, sex ed in schools now is not particularly good about giving you information about Planned Parenthood or STDs and stuff. So at the time, I'm sure it was much, much worse. But like,
Yeah, and there must
then just write an informational brochure. Like,
Yo,
write a blog.
This quote from a New York Times book review says, "A convincing account of first love."
Well, but then like that checks out because another reason we wanted to watch it was because of the Forever documentary.
Yeah.
And like all those authors that came like that were speaking about it, their testimonials on her different books and how they changed them. I think people had positive things to say about Forever.
I do think it is accurate that your first love, when that happens for you, especially if you're a teenager, it feels different than all of the times after that. Everything's heightened. And because you're a teenager, you infuse it with so much drama. you do have these stupid conversations like the VD joke that like turns into this like, oh my God, that like it's the end of the world kind of fight about things. That's accurate, but she got the emotion right, but she got none of the words right. She got none of the characters. I mean, there are no characters. They're just paper cutouts doing
They're two nice
this
kids.
thing.
Well, she
Are
said,
they?
so,
I don't like either of them.
So in her, this says, my daughter Randy asked for a story about two nice kids who have sex without either of them having to die. Well, they didn't die, but...
Oh yeah, all that, because I did read that excerpt before, and it reminded me just of the Scream movie.
I mean, yeah, that's a trope, right?
Yeah.
Like, punish the sexually active teenagers trope.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, you succeeded there. They did not die. That's about all I can give her with this. It's just so poorly written compared to her other stuff. And she has such a tin ear in this for how human beings talk to each other. And it's just really hard to reconcile with how well she does dialogue in some of her other books. Like, I feel in some of her other books, she really captures the sort of snarkiness that kids have at times, the kind of humor, how overheated emotions become when you're a tween. And this just doesn't land at all. And I refuse to believe that people ever talked like this. It does not sound
the dialogue,
honest to human language to me.
Human language.
I mean, Catherine's dialogue and her mom are not really that far off. Like, in how they speak about, like, sex, it doesn't sound that much different.
No one's is. It's not far off from the nurse at the clinic,
That's
from
true.
Sybil, there's nothing characterizing the dialogue for any individual character. It's all uniformly back and forth, let's convey information. It's really bizarre. It's a very strange read. I think when we were talking on chat, I said that I feel like Judy Blume was like, you know what, teens need to know about sex. I'm going to write a book about that, and just kind of like cranked it out.
Yeah.
With not enough editorial process, and she's off her game on this one.
Or maybe it was too much editorial process. Like, maybe an editor...
You think they like cleaned it up so much that it like took any characterization out of it?
I just want to give Blume
Maybe the
some...
editor is
The F word fly like twice.
Yeah. I was going to say, we were saying,
Well,
like,
it's the
maybe
edgy
the
book.
editor is why they say Ralph instead of penis. She was like, yeah, y'all got the word penis in here too many times.
But like in the same book, they do use the word fuck more than once to refer to sex. So like, why did you clean up the rest? That might actually be the only thing that I felt was like authentic in here. When they play like dirty word Scrabble, I was like, oh yeah, we did that stuff when I was a teen. Like, that was about it though. These are not authentic relationships that anyone's having because we don't know anything about these characters and they're all just the same.
Y'all wonder how many times the F word is in here?
Sure.
3?
5.
4.
Split the difference.
I was going to say, when I was a teenager, I read this. My mom got me this book that was designed to like teach you SAT words. They were like integrated into the plot.
Oh, I used
they were
to
like
read those
bolded,
too.
and the plot was terrible. It was like the most.
It's just convey vocabulary.
Basically.
Yeah.
And this kind of reminds me a little bit of that, but like the point is to like to convey, like sex ed.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I think it reads a lot like that.
No, the dialogue in some ways reminds me of the kind of dialogue I would have written for a story for class when I was in like 6th grade.
I have to hit these points that
Yeah,
my
I
teacher
need to
put on
move
a
this
checklist.
along.
Yeah.
And it's an impression of how people talk. It's not actual dialogue. And
I'm imagining it with puppets now. Oh no, be a Ralph puppet. I don't want to imagine that.
Please, God.
Goodness, love that for you.
I'm unimagining that.
I kind of want to do a deep dive of like Goodreads and seeing like what people say about it.
There was a wide range of reviews when I looked at them.
I mean,
okay.
And I bet this is a good example of a book that people are nostalgic about because it was important to them in some ways when they were a kid. But I think a lot of that is probably related to like, I knew this was the edgy book, or I knew it was a banned book. And I get much of the same sense of like revisiting something like Flowers in the Attic, which is absolutely terrible as an adult to read it, though I would argue it's better than this. It's similarly weird, but better than this. Or like Clan of the Cave Bear, which again is a terrible book, but like I have that nostalgia finding it at the public library and like flipping to the page that my friend said that the dirty stuff was on.
I'm reading the Goodreads review, and they're like, but I just recently turned 18 and I've got a good idea of what most teenagers think love to be and what I think it's supposed to be. And with all that in mind, I can't for the life of me abide the portrayal of love in this book. But it's funny because then they're like, guys might go around naming their underpants, but I'm always going to think that's disgusting. And then she, like, her fourth point is like, all caps, I hate ellipses, and any book that has 15 ellipses per page will automatically carve its place in my hated this book list.
She's right about that, because we've got 3 ellipses in one sentence here.
When you listen to the audiobook, you miss all the ellipses.
Yeah, that's true. Especially when you listen to it on 2 times.
No,
yes, there are no ellipses when you listen to it on
She
high
is correct.
speed.
The pages are littered with ellipses. Everyone is trailing off in conversation constantly.
That's unfortunate.
Which just reminds me that it's like a in-joke about like how much people of a certain era use ellipses in like text and emails.
Writing like you were in 6th grade. I think my stuff was full of ellipses then too. Like that's a very... Because I thought that was how adults wrote.
Right.
Like, you know, then you don't actually have to say the thing. It's just implied. Like you let the reader do the work. Oh.
The way that Catherine lets Michael do the work about like her last stare off at the end. And then she's like, I hope he gets all of this from my meaningful stare at him. But all I can say is, see you around.
It's so corny, you guys. It's so bad. Forever is a feminist work, folks.
Is this a yes or no question?
That's the best I can give it. She tried. Maybe at the time?
I don't know. Feminist for who? Because not for the fat woman. You know what I'm saying?
No, not for Sybil. Certainly, you know, I question like how good this was for Catherine, because again, half the book he's just pressuring her, and then she's like, yeah, okay, I guess.
And she never really realizes that that's what he was doing. And I think that that's what was really frustrating about reading it, is that you come away feeling like, well, that's awful. Like
icky.
She comes out like loving this guy and having like really fond memories, and I'm sure, I don't know, may go on to say that, you know, it was a really great first love, but
what was it?
There was just so much off.
Fair.
That's about as much as I can give her credit for, though. She at least acknowledged that it should be pleasurable for the girl, though it seems like that was minimally achieved maybe once or twice, and it's still presented as, that's the best you can do.
Well, that part seems kind of realistic for their age, I guess, right?
Like, that's about to be so sad for you.
Like, I mean, because, you know, he had only probably really done it one other time with that girl that he got.
Twice. He said he did it twice with her on the beach.
On the beach.
These folks hate beds.
I meant to highlight that part to bring that up, because I'm just like, y'all just get sand everywhere.
It's so cliche.
The sleeping bag on the beach, I was like, this is a very bad idea.
All of that was gross.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating. And it gets it.
Well, and she gave him the clap, so I think it went poorly for everyone. Yeah.
An attempt was made.
An attempt was made. That's, yes, the subtitle of this book. Oh, boy.
There's ellipses even in the title.
Right.
I just noticed that.
Even on the back of the book. Best-selling. Beloved best-selling and banned. Forever.
This book makes me sad.
Judy Blume. Wow.
Okay, feminist from the perspective that grandma seems like a badass. She's like a high-powered attorney. She's sending birth control pamphlets to her granddaughter. She's taking care of the law firm after her husband has a stroke. I don't know. Yeah. Her granddaughter who has no life goals other than Michael. I want to be with you and Ralph forever.
You know what's an interesting, like almost self-reflection, but I don't know that Blume has it. Doesn't she say something about that Robert Redford?
Remember?
Oh, yes.
Kill the good guys
like
from the
movie
bad
doesn't.
guys?
Oh, doesn't Catherine say something about it didn't ring true? What does she say?
She
about
did.
It?
She was like, well, Robert Redford's hot, but it didn't feel authentic or something.
Yeah. This book didn't feel authentic.
I mean, one of you did say that this had been made into a TV series. Was it like a limited run TV series?
I think so. I haven't looked deeply into it, but I believe it's on Netflix.
I could see something like that working well for these topics and like being able to explore it better. Some of this stuff wouldn't be as hard to watch as it reads on the page, but you'd still have to change up the dialogue.
I don't think it's happened yet, but I've seen that Mara Brock Akil, who was behind Girlfriends of the Game, she's doing a reimagining. The upcoming series will follow the epic love story of two Black teens exploring their identities through the awkward and then it kind of.
She'll have to reimagine.
I thought it had already come out.
I mean,
unless there's another one.
This is definitely not a book where, even though it's extremely dialogue heavy, like you can't take the dialogue for this and use it at any point.
There was a made-for-TV movie in 1978, which I'd be really curious about.
Looks like it's fairly loosely inspired, which might mean good things for it.
I mean, again, I feel like that's almost all you can do. This is so generic. There's nothing there to work with.
Sounds like they might be trying to update it. Like, the details are sparse, but
yeah, it
sounds like
they're. I wonder if that's even still happening. It was from like a year ago.
It's just Euphoria. That's the updated forever.
The more they change it, probably the better at this point.
That's interesting because I feel like you could have just made a show and not even given any. Do you know what I mean? Like you could have like not even acknowledged that it had anything to do.
Like, why are you going to pay for the rights to something when nothing's usable?
Right.
Yeah, that's.
But maybe just to be able to get marketing around it, to say like it's loosely based on Forever, like a book that comes up very often as like a banned book, and Judy Blume is having like a resurgence.
Have to pay for the right to say that, though. I bet a lot. Get your money, Judy Blume.
I guess.
All right, y'all, let's get into this game. Today we're taking a BuzzFeed quiz. Shout out to Daniela Emanuel. Take this Judy Blume quiz and we'll guess your high school clique. All right, so first question. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, or Forever? Are You There? I'm going to say, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Oh, it's such a better book, but I feel like I probably should, if I'm trying to actually get an answer that's accurate, I feel like I almost have to go with Forever.
Okay.
Is it just based on which you like? Like,
if it's trying to get high school clique, shouldn't it? I don't know.
I haven't read most
shouldn't
of these
I
books.
pick the high school book? All right, well, I'll be contrary. I will pick Forever, even though Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is a far, far superior book.
I'm choosing Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Same.
All right, next up. Tiger Eyes or Blubber? I hated Blubber. I haven't read Tiger Eyes, but I hated Blubber, so
I'm going Tiger Eyes as well.
Same.
I have not read Tiger Eyes.
Oh, no, I've never read them.
Which one are you going with?
Tiger Eyes, because I haven't read it, but maybe it's better than Blubber.
Okay. All right. So next we have Deanie or Then Again, Maybe I Won't.
I really do not remember either of those, but I know I read them both. So I'll go Then Again, Maybe I Won't, because I have a vague recollection that I really liked that book when I was very little.
I like the cover of Deanie, I guess. I don't know. I'm just reaching here at this point.
I remember Deanie being good too, but
I remember liking Deanie. I didn't read the other one.
I'll go with Then Again, Maybe I Won't.
All right, next up, Just As Long As We're Together or Here's to You, Rachel Robinson?
Oh, I'll do Just As Long As We're Together.
Same.
I'll do Here's to You, Rachel Robinson.
I haven't read either of them. Just pick Rachel Robinson.
I feel like this quiz is like Sheila Erasure. Where's my otherwise known as Sheila the Great?
Oh, sorry, I'm reading questions.
Yeah,
right?
you're in charge.
Iggy's House or starring Sally J. Friedman as herself?
Oh, Iggy's House. I liked that one.
I'm going to go with Iggy's House.
Iggy's House.
I don't know what happened with either of them, so I'll pick Iggy's House too.
All right, and last but not least, we have Freckle Juice or Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing.
Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing Forever. I loved that book.
But I liked Freckle Juice too.
I did too.
I went with Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing.
I'm going to also go with Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing.
What'd you get?
The bookworms. You and your friends had the highest grades in class. Most of your time was spent hitting the books instead of the parties, but it sure paid off on your college applications.
I got the Rebels.
Me too.
I also got the bookworms.
We here.
So you were one of the troublemakers. Class was overrated. The rest of the school was lame, and your parents were the worst. Your town was boring, but you definitely knew how to make the best out of it.
All right. Well, the quiz was kind of as anticlimactic as the book.
Fair.
Well, it all
as
went
Catherine
together.
and Michael's relationship.
On many levels.
Thanks, Ralph.
Each episode, we ask whether our book passes the Bechdel test. The Bechdel test asks whether a work features two female characters who talk to each other about something that doesn't involve men or boys. So, does it pass?
No. I don't think it does.
I mean, they talk about Sybil having the baby, which is kind of a reach. And if you think about it, kind of directly related to her and men in a way. So maybe not.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with stuff because all the sexuality stuff is still, I mean, I guess with Sybil, it's more focused on Sybil because she doesn't even know who the dad is.
I mean, her mom asks her if she looks bad in the bikini her father bought her. Her husband bought her.
Yeah,
for her 40th birthday.
I know. I was like, she's like, I could show her some exercises.
I hated that conversation
Also,
so much.
There's a lot in there about that too. Like, there's serious body image stuff going on with Judy Blume because she like gives their height and the mom's weight and does that whole like riff
they're
about,
close
like,
and
the mom's so thin and she can eat everything and she always looks great. And then by the end, the mom's like, are my thighs getting flabby?
Yeah, so this might be a no. Which is interesting because we don't have a lot of books because the standard is so low.
If it's a pass, it is just barely. Like, I don't know if I can give it that much credit.
All right, then
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I can't think of a conversation.
Because even stuff about like college, she's focused on where else is Michael applying and like. She goes to the counselor and talks about her college choices, but it's all with the goal of getting to where Michael is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Well, that's it. I'm kidding.
Were you going to say
That's a fail, the Bechdel test.
Were you going to say something, Hannah?
Nope. Well, that's it for this episode of These Books Made Me. Join us next time when our main character is a native Marylander who's one heck of a crabber. If you think you know which book we're tackling next, follow us on Instagram. We're at These Books Made Me and drop a comment on our Guess Our Next Read post.